We're at Prasat Ta Som. This is a fairly well-preserved entrance building, and the adjacent wall. Notice there's something on the wall, so we'll take a closer look at that. Okay, what this detail is, I don't know, although it looks somewhat vaguely familiar. Although we haven't seen these artistic devices, topping a wall yet. But it's just novel that there's anything on top of the wall. Now we're looking back, but I noticed an interesting bit of detail. Notice this face, somewhat similar to the large temple that we saw in Angkor Thom. So this king who built this may have been trying to reflect the same sense of power, but in a dramatically understated way. Just one figure of himself, but look at the size of the ears. Ears used to be considered important. The longer the ears were a sense of power. Here the causeway, and this may be a moat to either side of us. There is a depression here, as you can see. It was not a large moat, but then this was not most important of temple complexes. Although, to be fair, I have to check and see when the date of this would have been relative to the bigger one. Certainly, if this was an earlier one, it might have been the largest of its kind at the time. I don't know. Here you can see this continual series of doorways. Whether those represent the continual series of lives that we reincarnate towards Buddha perfection, I don't know. Here interior is two shrines, one on either side of me, and then we continue on into either the temple proper or this is a big wall. Some of the stone reassembled in the hopes that it will be repositioned. Some pretty detail remaining on that little building. It's an entry building for the central walled enclosed temple. Again, we can see the outline of the niche, but not what's inside it. Okay, while the monument is missing, we know this to be linga by that device that channels fluid off to the side. Look how far down this goes. So we're not even into the middle of the temple yet. Here a large chunk of detail to be restored later. Here the window detail, a little bit more elaborate than some. And inside this temple, another linga. Notice that it would have drained water to the left here. More doorways leading through sub-temples. And here on this secondary temple, notice that the window is a false window. The panel in the center probably used for a mural of some sort. There we can see some ear detail. Whether those were weights to weigh down the ear and lengthen it, don't know. And what is this, the device that she's carrying or he's carrying? Or is that a girdle and a bowl in her hand? I'm thinking it's just decoration on the top of her sarong. What's interesting is that all of these linga pedestals, the protrusion is to the east. Okay, now we're going to leave this temple walled enclosure and go either outside of it or into another walled system. Okay, in fact, we have just left the temple complex, the central part, and we're now on a causeway going the opposite direction. Okay, and this assemblage is to be reinstalled on top of one of the temples. As I pan up, you'll be able to see one in position. And this, the front facade of a temple, waiting to be someday hopefully reinstalled. It's interesting to see that even though we're in the midst of many, many temples, all of the spare area is used as rice paddies.